All right. I hate technology. Can't wait till this is all done. And I had to train people in person again. All right. Hey, all you cool cats and kittens. Welcome to Stretch. So, we're going to focus on some hip stuff today. I want to get through quickly some rotational stuff, and then we're going to get into some more linear stuff for the high hamstring. So let's get right into our sideline capsule cars. We're going to do this from two positions. You'll notice I got like a pillow here. I suggest you get one too, not absolutely necessary. I have a tennis ball, or you can use a rolled up towel that I'm going to place behind my knee to help keep my knee stable. And I got a kettlebell in front of me that I'm just using to brace off of, not necessary at all. You can brace off of the floor, but an immovable object makes it easier to brace off of. All right. So we're going to go into fetal position. Knees are up towards the chest. I have my right arm straight. My head is resting on the mat. First thing I want you to notice is that my shoulder and my hip are like two mountains, and my spine is like a valley between them. I want to try to spread the mountains and decrease the size of the valley by creating a space under here. That's going to make my spine nice and straight. All right, this is the position I would ideally like everyone to hold. If you fall into this position, just try to take note of it by noticing that there's no gap between the floor and your oblique. So we're trying to go right there, ball behind the knee. All right. From here, I'm going to abduct my hip or open it up as wide as I can. And I'm seeing myself in the screen, so I know that my knee and my foot are approximately at the same level, and that level's even with this board behind me. The knee is going to stay at that level. The hip or the foot will not, because I'm going to rotate my hip. I'm going to start with internal rotation. And you see how the foot rises a little bit. 3, 2, 1. And then I'm going to go to external rotation. 3, 2, 1. The foot has fallen a little bit. I'm rotating the femur in the joint space. 3, 2, 2. 3, 2, 2. I'm creating stability through the ground and through my kettlebell. 3, 2, 3. 3, 2, 3. 2 more. 3, 2, 4. 3, 2, 4. 1 more. 3, 2, 5. 3, 2, 5. Back to neutral. Slowly close. Oh, that feels nice right there. I'm going to keep that ball right back behind me. I'm going to straighten out my bottom leg. Again, I'm going to try to spread the mountains and decrease the depth of the valley. All right, you notice my hip is already bent at 90 degrees, but my starting point is going to be so that my knee is directly in front of my hip. All right, I'm going to go right back into my internal and external rotation. Internal rotation, the foot rises. 3, 2, 1. External, it's going to fall. You're going to notice it's touching the floor. I'm going to actively press into the floor and think of sweeping my foot up that way, and that will create tension in your inner thighs. Those are the external rotators we're trying to work here. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 2. Notice knee levels staying approximately the same. 3, 2, 2. 3, 2, 3. Trying to keep my foot relaxed, not doing the work with the lower leg. 3, 2, 3. 3, 2, 4. This is getting harder. 3, 2, 4. Last one. 3, 2, 5. 3, 2, 5. Back to neutral. Bring that leg back. Woo! Smack that hip out. Yeah, that feels nice. All right, I'm flipping over. Getting into the other side, right into it. Let's keep these hips awake, ready to roll. So why do I like to start rotational over linear? It's a good question. So first, I like to do rotational work, just strict rotational work like these capsule cars to help mobilize the deepest layer of tissue in my body, which is the joint capsule. I should say the deepest layer of moving tissue in my body because the bones are deeper than the joint capsule. So mobilize that first, control that first, bring awareness to that first, the deepest layer. Then we're going to get into a full hip car, and then we are going to do some linear work. So we start working on more superficial tissue, all right? But if the deepest tissue doesn't move, the more superficial tissue is not going to move either. All right, here we go. Let's open it up. Notice that my knee and my foot are at approximately the same level. I'm in my fully abducted position. Internal rotation. 3, 2, 1. External rotation. 3, 2, 1. Push these range of motion. Grab more. 3, 2, 2. Try not to compensate though with the spine. 3, 2, 2. All right, I'm trying really hard to hold this torso stable. 3, 2, 3. I'm also gripping that tennis ball. 3, 2, 3. 3, 2, 4. My internal rotation feels real restricted today on this leg. 3, 2, 4. What do I do with that information? I save it to see if it's true over about a week or two. 3, 2, 5, because it could just be a today thing, which doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. External, 3, 2, 5. Back to neutral, back down. But if over and over again I feel restriction in that internally rotated hip, that means I probably got to dive a little bit deeper into it. But things change day at a time, sometimes for reasons that we can't even think of. All right? Not a huge deal. We just keep checking in on stuff. That's why it's good to do cars every day because it's an assessment tool. All right. Here we go. Let's go into straight leg capsular cars. Bring that knee up directly in front of the hip. And internally rotate. And externally touching the floor, dragging it up the floor. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 2. 3, 2, 2. 3, 2, 3. 3, 2, 3. My left leg's pushing firmly into the floor. 3, 2, 4. 3, 2, 4. My left hip and left shoulder are firmly into the floor. 3, 2, 5. 3, 2, 5. Back to neutral. Back there. Ooh. Shake it out. All right. We're going to go into a full hip car from side lying. Let's actually go back to the other side. Switch it up now. This side had a rest. Should be nice and fresh for just 2 full hip cars. All right. So the full hip car, much more difficult, the pattern, than just the capsular car. So try to stick with me. All right. I'll try to use with anatomical positions and just layman's terms so you can kind of see. All right. And figure this out. We're going to make sure when we do this that we don't roll backwards. So our belly button should kind of be pointed straight ahead, maybe even down towards the floor. All right. Let's first abduct the hip as wide as we can. So we're back to that top position. Now, internally rotate that hip. Now, extend that hip, or I'm pushing my foot back towards the wall behind me. Try not to let that knee drop. Now, drop the whole leg evenly down towards the floor, but don't let it touch the floor. And then bring it right back where it started. Reverse, extend that hip as far back as you can. Squeeze the butt, try not to arch the low back. Lift as high as you can. This is a tough position for me. Externally rotate that hip. Keep externally rotating as you bring it slowly down. The foot touches. Bring it back to neutral. Cool. Hold on one second. All right, we are back. Full side lying hip cars. Let's do it again. We're going to fully abduct. And then internally rotate that leg, that hip. Extend back towards the wall. Drop it down towards the floor. Bring it back flush with the other knee. Reverse, extend. Lift up. Rotate externally. Keep it externally rotated. Bring that foot down and then the knee down. Whew, my hip's getting tired. Let's flip it back over. Last 2 full cars from sideline. So I need to give credit to my coach, Ian Markow. This first part of our class is directly taken from a part of one of his classes. And it taught me so much just doing cars from side lying. That like doing cars while you're on your back is a completely different sensation, or doing cars while standing is a completely different sensation. And in one of his classes, he had us start doing a bunch of side lying stuff. And I was just blown away at how different my hip can feel just from simply being in a different position relative to gravity. All right. And that's something that we kind of take for granted. If you're doing something, try to do the same move, but just change your position relative to how gravity pulls on us, or relative to the floor. And it will change sensations a lot. And this is something to be focused on for all of your training. All right, let's do our last set of 2 full hip cars. We're going to abduct the hip as wide as we can. That is not moving very well. Internally rotate. Extend. Drop it down. Flex. Right here, I got like a big knot or something I'm going to have to work on later today. Again, using the car as an assessment tool. Driving that foot backwards, hip goes into extension. Try not to lean back when you do this. Lift up. externally rotate that hip. Keep externally rotating. Start bringing it down back to the front. Foot will come down first. Once it does, internally rotate a little bit, just back to neutral. One more. Up to the chest. Abduct. Internal rotation. Drive backwards. Drop it down. Flex. Reverse. Backwards. Abduct. Externally rotate. Coming down towards the floor. Neutral. Back together. Nice work. Awesome. So those are some side lying hip car variations. All right. Really like them. Practice them. I want to go into some more linear stuff here. All right. So, whereas a car is more of a rotational movement, let me pop this up a second. Where the car is more of a rotational movement, we are going to be focused on the high hamstring here. All right. So I'm using what's called a slant board just to have a better show for you guys. But if you don't have a slant board, that's all right. Ideally, you can just put your foot up against the wall. All right. And you'll be able to find some stretch in the hamstring that way. But even better would be just an elevated surface like these pads. So then I can actually lean forward. All right. So something that's elevated just for your foot, like a curb, a step. You can put a pot on the ground, all right, and put your foot on that, all right? Something like that to help us get into this position and lean forward. I'm going to try it on the slant board. And what we're going to do, we're going to put that foot up so it's at an angle. We have to keep this left leg straight. And where we're going to look for a stretch is right in my left high hamstring glute area. All right, we're really targeting the high hamstring. So if I'm here, this leg is just a balance leg. I'm going to take my hips and push them backwards. And I'm now playing with my hip hike position. You can also play with internal or external rotation. Start exploring this position by hip hiking slowly and internal and externally rotating the hips slowly. Find your best stretch for today. One that's going to hit that high hamstring. I can take this and put it up there. I can also do that. The most important thing is that you find the stretch in the high hamstring that you need. And I got mine. So we're holding it here. Now we got to keep searching for this stretch. All right? Because I keep losing it. And I'm very specific about where I want it. Because I know that's the spot I need to hit. There we go. So I'm slightly internally rotated on my left hip. And I am also even on my hip hike here. We're going to hold this for about another 30 seconds. Then we're going to do a Pales contraction. What a Pales contraction is it's activation of the stretched tissue. So it's activation of the tissue right there. And what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to drag my foot across this slant board and kick it back behind me. However, I'm not going to let the foot move. So it's an isometric contraction. So all we're going to do is try to contract that tissue. Let's do it nice and slow. Try to contract that stretched tissue. Think about driving your heel down into the floor if you're on a step. dragging the foot or leg back behind you so it goes backwards into extension. Oh, I got it. Feel it there. Hold it there. For 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10. When I get to 0, we're going to try to activate our hip flexor to pull us deeper into the stretch. 3, 2, 1. Fire your hip flexor to pull you down deeper. Try not to round the spine too much. And squeeze that muscle really hard as you can. Squeeze it. Squeeze it. Squeeze that hip flexor. I'm trying to pull myself deeper. I'm also trying to internally rotate my hip a little bit harder. Squeeze it, squeeze it, squeeze it, and rest. Now just hold this passive stretch. Breathe for a few seconds. We're going to come out of here slowly. 3, 2, 1. Let's slowly come out of there. Woo! Let's shake that out. Nice work. So that was a set of pails and rails that we were trying to do for the tissue that's responsible for hip extension. All right. So what pails and rails is? Progressive angular isometric load, regressive angular isometric loading. All right. So it's just a series of activations while you're in a stretched position. They're quite specific, but once you kind of get the protocol down, you can target any tissue to help make it more mobile. Let's now go left leg. All right, we're going to try to target that same spot. So try to find that same position. Remember, you might have to play with hip hike. So it looks like this when you play with it. I'm jetting my hip out or I'm sucking it in. Out that way, in that way. Where do we feel it most? What tissue do we want to target individually today? Right now, I'm looking at this high hamstring for me. I'm slightly internally rotated. All right, and I got my stretch that I want. I'm going to hold here and breathe for about a minute. Just breathe and relax. The breath can do wonders when we are in a stretched position. A passive stretch, if you're just breathing nice, long, slow, deep belly breaths, will help relax that stretch sensation, which is what we want in order to get deeper into it. Because that stretch sensation is just that. It's just a sensation. It does not mean that your muscle is going to tear. It is your nervous system telling you to stop. But your nervous system is a liar. You have more range of motion. You just have to convince your nervous system that you do. So you do that by breathing. All right, our pals contraction. We're going to contract this tissue. Think that our whole leg would kick back behind us, but we don't let it move. Ready, set, go. Activate that tissue. Think about driving the foot downward across the floor, squeezing all of this. It may be difficult for some of you to find that activation if you're not used to doing this. And when I tell you to, we're going to go to our rails contraction, which is going to be firing the hip flexor to pull us deeper into this position. Ready, set, go. Squeezing that, squeezing that hip flexor to pull you deep. Try not to round that spine. Working, this is hard work. This is strength training. Come on. Keep squeezing that hip flexor. I'm trying hard to pull myself down more. And to internally rotate a little bit more. And relax. And we'll just hang out here for another few seconds. Finish off the Pales Rails protocol. And rest. You can come up. All right, kick that board out of the way. And now, we're gonna sit with our back up against the wall. So I'm going to elevate myself because my hip flexion is quite poor, especially on my left side. So if you cannot sit on the floor with your legs straight out in front of you and your torso perfectly upright, that means you have to elevate yourself. I have 2 blue pads. I'm actually going to go with a third one because I need some extra help with sitting up straight. All right. So what we're looking for here is that you're able to sit on the floor or on a few pads with your butt elevated, with your legs straight out in front of you, and up against the wall, your tailbone should be touching the wall, and your shoulders, but not your low back. All right? That's how you know that you're in the right seated position for this next thing that we're doing. All right? I'm going to use the kettlebell, but again, not necessary. We're just going to do a few hovers over our kettlebell. You don't necessarily need something to hover over. It's just helpful. I'm going to bend my right leg at 90 degrees, and I'm going to squeeze it. When I do this, though, I got to make sure that both butt cheeks are even on the mats underneath my butt. All right? I'm going to go into a slight internal rotation bias because that's what I would like to work on. You can even do this with a slight external rotation bias if that's more difficult for you. But for me, internal rotation is more difficult. I'm trying to keep anterior pelvic tilt as much as I can. And I'm going to lift, drift out, and over. And that sucked. Ooh, my quads started cramping. If you did that right, you felt it too. Let's try to lock this out. Squeeze, lift, drift back in. That's 1. Squeeze. Out. 2. 3. Sorry, that was still 2. 3. 3. 4. 4. 5. Woo. 5. Good. Now you saw, I'm only able to basically clear that kettlebell. I'm not coming 5 feet over it. If you are coming really high over your object that you're hovering off of, you need to do one of 2 things. You need to put your butt on the same level as your feet, so remove some mats, or you need to elevate the object, or you need to stop cheating, which means that you're kind of rounding your spine as you do it. All right? We're trying to mobilize the hip joint here. Hip joint into flexion, which is going to stretch out those extensors. All right, we're going to move to the other side. Here and here, sitting nice and upright. All right, trying to keep my upper back up against the wall. Up, out, down. Oh, man, so much easier than my left side. It's interesting to find things like that. Back in. 1. 2. I'm going to go on that internally rotated bias. I could use that on this side too. That's harder. That's where I got to work. You'll notice I'm internally rotated by looking at where my foot and knee point. My foot turns to about 11 o'clock, or I guess for you guys it would be 1 o'clock. My knee, same deal. So the whole leg and hip is internally rotated. Lift. And that's going to target more tissue over here rather than over here. That's That's 3. Much harder. 4. 5. Ooh. All right. Let's shake that out for a second. All right. Next thing, I want to work on some hip flexion lift-offs from the deep squat position. All right. Now, this is another difficult position for people to find. More than likely, you will have to raise your butt up. So I'm just going to briefly go over the steps that you're going to need to follow to find this position. I want you to get into a squat stance, and you're going to slowly lower yourself down into the deepest squat you can without butt winking or rounding your lumbar spine. So here, I can feel my back is straight. Here, I can't keep it straight. So I'm trying to find that height in my deep squat where I can keep a neutral spine as opposed to a rounded lumbar curve. And once I find that, I'm going to set a chair or a bunch of pillows or a little stool or something into that exact height or somewhere around that height. Really, if we're talking in exact theory, it would be slightly above that height, all right? Because we need some room to do a passive range liftoff, all right? So we are going to start from a wide stance, or what some would call a sumo stance, all right? Arms are going to be straight out in front to help us balance. Actually, I lied. We're going to turn and anchor ourselves to that right leg, all right? And we are just going to try our best to lift that left foot off the ground by flexing our left hip. So we're here, and lift, and down. All right, so you'll notice I kind of had to lean that way. I don't love that, not my favorite thing. I'm kind of exploring this position. So I got to try to figure out a way to stabilize over here. And luckily, I have this kettlebell. So I'm going to put that to the outside, grab onto it, and that's going to be 50 extra pounds to help me stabilize on. All right, so I'm going to set my body, use a kettlebell to help me set it, and now flex that hip. There it is, and back down. Good. I also got to remember I'm trying to lift the spine and not round it. Here we go. Let's do it again. Lift. 3, 2, 1. Back down. 2 more. 3, 2, 2. Back down. 1 more. 3, 2, 3. Good. Let's switch sides. I'm going to try a different setup with this bell that I think might be even better. All right. So I'm going to lift the right leg from that hip joint now, except I'm going to use this bell. Let's try it like this. All right. And lift. 3, 2, 1. That's it. So I'm pushing down into the bell. Big chest, knees open. Lift. 3, 2, 2. As you do this, try not to do the hunch over, the rounded spine. Big chest, big belly. Knees out and lift. 3, 2, 3. Lift. 3, 2, 4. If this is truly end range, this is quite difficult. If you're getting really high off the ground, it means you got to lower your seat a little bit. And lift. 3, 2, 5. Good. Whew. Let's shake that out. Those hips are feeling that. Now I want to go to a more narrow squat stand. So that's going to be like this, all right? My feet are almost touching. I'm still going to have the kettlebell here. I'm still going to try to keep my back flat, and I'm just going to try to send this knee straight up. So I'm going to try to avoid really externally rotating the hip, and I'm going to try to keep my knee straight ahead as opposed to out here, all right? For my hips, I'm pretty damn good at getting them wide open. It's the stuff in here that I really want to work on to get better, all right? So I'm going to bias that when I train. So I'm going to bring that in, and I'm going to set here, and I'm going to try to lift straight up. 3, 2, 1, lift. And down. Good. See how I like this setup. And lift. 3, 2, 1, down. That was better. So I kind of like this setup here. I might even like, nope. All right, targeting right here in the hip flexor. Passive range lift off number 3. Lift. 3, 2, 3. Good. Try not to round that spine. Lift. 3, 2, 4. And lift. 3, 2, 5. Nice. Good. So this is going to help us eventually get into a deeper squat because our hip flexors pull us down to this squat. All right. It'll help strengthen the hip flexors, which if we got strong ones at end ranges, it will help keep our spine nice and tall in the squat. All right. All stuff that I'm continuously working on, I suggest you do too. Squats are really important movement. All right, just sitting down and standing up, you probably do it at least 100 times a day. All right, here we go. Let's try left side. Try to stick that chest out, big long neck. Lift, 3, 2, 1, back down. Lift, 3, 2, 2, back down. Last 3. Lift, 3, 2, 3. Lift, 3, 2, 4. And lift, 3, 2, 5. Good. Rest, shake it out. We're going to stay in this deep squat position. And we're going to finish off with a little upper body movement from this deep squat. All right. And it's going to be our swimmers. Love the swimmers. Think all swimmers are great, doing from all different positions. All right. Today, I'm going to work in this kind of tight, deep squat. And I'm actually going to grab one more tool here. A little block. You can use a pillow. All right. And start it there to help me squeeze and stabilize in this position that I'm trying to get better at in my squat. So my hips are working. I'm going to start hands behind the ears, interlock behind the head, touching the head. Step 1, pull off. Step 2, Y. Step 3, reach back behind you. Flip your arms, pinkies face the floor. Step 4, overlap the hands behind your back. Step 5, touch as high on the back as you can. Good. That's half a swimmer. Lift off. Extend the elbows. Swivel, spin, switch up to your Y. Bend the elbows. Touch the head. Good, that's 1. We got 2 more of these. I am really squeezing this block. I want to squeeze it even more. And at a smaller angle, I'm going to go right there. Let's lift off. Y. Swivel, switch. Keep squeezing back behind you. Bend the elbows. touch as high on the back as possible. Lift off. Extend the elbows, thumbs are up, pinkies are down. Swivel, switch back up to the top. Bend the elbows, touch the head. That's 2. One more, people, then we're done. Last one. I'm really going to squeeze this block, really fire my hips, ankles, knees, adductors while moving my shoulders. A lot of work here. Last time. Ready, lift off. You see my knees shaking. Reach for your Y, thumbs are backwards. Swivel, switch, reach back behind you. Bend those elbows, overlap the hands, lightly put down on the back. Reverse, lift up, extend, swivel, come up to the top, bend, touch the head. Oh, well, my hip sure felt that. Oh, man. All right. Great work today, people. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Hope to see everyone back here next week. Enjoy the rest of your day.